The way you beat a guy like that, you're not going to outbox him. If you're waiting on him and he's initiating and he's feinting you into counters and then he's countering the counter, you're going to lose that fight.
You know AJ's chin's gone, right? And I'm not saying that I believe that. I don't believe that. I think getting beaten up by Daniel Dubois does not mean your chin's gone, especially when you keep getting up and you managed to rock him late in the fight and you stayed in the fight. And I think Daniel Dubois is a freak like... You know, AJ is a freak. He's a one-off. Jake Paul is not Daniel Dubois. But some people are genuinely giving Jake Paul a chance. That's blowing my mind here.
Now looking at the age difference, we've got 28 years old compared to 36 years old. So I guess the advantage there goes a little bit towards Jake Paul. 28-year-old is better than a 36-year-old.
Max Kellerman recently explained why he believes Jake Paul could beat Anthony Joshua. According to Kellerman, Joshua is undeniably skilled and a former heavyweight champion. Age may no longer be on his side. Jake Paul, meanwhile, brings youth, energy, and confidence into the ring. Kellerman argues that for Joshua to win, he must tap into his inner youth, staying active, aggressive, and willing to outwork Jake throughout the fight.
And he's feinting you into counters and then he's countering the counter. You're going to lose that fight. Joshua has to impose his size, strength, youth, go to the body. He has to be willing to take certain risks. And if he does that...
Kellerman says Jake Paul actually has a chance to win, while others believe he is risking his life stepping into the ring with a former heavyweight champion. Kellerman talked about Jake Paul's mindset and how he has changed over the last few years. Jake has now fought many times, gone through different types of pressure, and learned how to stay calm when the spotlight is on him. Kellerman believes that Jake is not going to be nervous at all going into this fight because he has been in big moments repeatedly. The analysts believe Jake Paul is built for huge events and performs better when the stakes are high. He went so far as to say Jake has a 100% chance to win, not because he is guaranteed to beat Joshua, because he has full confidence in his preparation, his abilities, and the team around him. Some experts have been predicting a surprise, saying that Joshua can lose the fight. Their reasoning is that Joshua is older now, his reflexes have slowed, and he doesn't have the same explosive style he had when he was undefeated and feared.
Experience that Jake has gained in the 5 years he's been in the sport. To be in your 12th or 13th fight in front of 80,000 people at AT&T Stadium in front of 125 million viewers, that's not experience you can gain normally. So he's going to go into that event very calm and very composed. And I fully believe that he does 100% think he's going to beat Anthony Joshua, yes.
What about the weight? Will there be a limit for Joshua?
So there's a lot of discussion around the weight. Joshua fought Usyk twice. Both of those times, Usyk was 221 pounds. Joshua was 240 to 245. When Jake fought Mike Tyson last year, 227 pounds. I expect Jake will come in anywhere between 225 and 230, and Anthony Joshua has a weight limit of 245 pounds.
There will be those, as you're aware, that will look at it and criticise this fight. There already have been, haven't there? They'll say it's a real mismatch. What would you say to them? Are we going to be watching sport at its purest?
I would say it's much less of a mismatch than what you saw with AJ and Francis Ngannou, who a massive man, but relatively no boxing experience. I would say it's much less of a mismatch than AJ's 9th or 10th fight against guys who've been knocked out 20 to 25 times. Given AJ's pedigree, Jake is built for this. Jake is built for the big moments. So do I think it's dangerous for Jake Paul? Absolutely. Do I think it's also dangerous for Anthony Joshua? 100%.
I mean, we're just watching some of these punches being thrown now. Can he take something like that, Jake Paul?
Hey, Alexander Usyk took it, right? I think that was a perfect 1-2 combination by Joshua, again, on a fairly stationary fighter in Francis Ngannou, who had a good performance against Tyson Fury. But I don't think Tyson Fury took that fight serious for one.
They argue that while Joshua used to dominate heavyweights, today he fights more cautiously and is easier to hit than before. These fans also point out that Jake Paul has improved a lot. He has more power, better conditioning, and better fundamentals than he had a few years ago. So, from their point of view, the age difference in the recent performances of both fighters make this fight more interesting than people expected.
Incredibly well for Paul. He's not going to land on Joshua, is he? Joshua's going to be far too skilled in evading whatever Jake Paul could throw at him.
Because I don't believe he's an evading fighter. I think he's one of those fighters that is extremely powerful to where a fighter is simply afraid. The problem is that all of the pressure's on Joshua at the moment. So Jake Paul, if he gets knocked out in 12 seconds, he should get knocked out. The problem is as soon as Joshua starts taking damage, all of a sudden he's thinking, the world is watching me, I'm a professional fighter, and I'm getting beat off a YouTuber. All of the pressure is in Joshua, and that's a lot that can weigh on a man.
Just Jake Paul can't damage him though. Like
people can damage him though. He's went down.
No, people can.
World
people
champion.
can. Yeah. No, like Alexander Usyk can, Daniel Dubois can, but these are supreme athletes. Jake,
completely correct. Yes, there's a difference in someone who's been boxing their entire life versus a YouTuber. I completely understand that, but you can't deny that Jake Paul has power. I think it's one of his only attributes. I think he's a very poor boxer, but what he does have is a weird technique where you don't know what
he's got power. How do we know he's got power?
He's knocked people out.
What Ben Askren and Tyron Woodley?
Yeah.
Tyron Woodley was
like,
arguably one of the best UFC fighters there's ever been.
Mate. Like,
no, mate. I'm not suggesting that. I'm not suggesting that he's going to go in there and walk Joshua all over. But you can't deny that he has lights out power. It's just
I would deny that. I would deny that he has that kind of power.
In an amateur boxing ring, yeah, fine. But not against a two-time world champion. We're talking about here.
Again, I understand the contempt in what I'm saying, and I do see how it is completely stupid thinking a YouTuber could break Anthony Joshua. But the thing is that he's going to be training for this fight. Joshua has all of the world looking at him thinking you should walk him over. If it gets 2 rounds, 3 rounds inside, I think Joshua loses. Yeah.
You think he gets beat?
I mean, I think the pressure will get to him. I think if he loses to Jake Paul, he's the embarrassment to boxing. And if you get inside 3 rounds where you've not put him away like everyone thinks you will, all of a sudden that pressure to finish the fight as he should is going to gain and gain and gain.
Is there any truth in this, Jamie? Can you see a world where Dan's theory is basically this geezer can punch and he therefore has a puncher's chance? I think he's got no chance. Like slim, if none.
No chance.
None. Literally none.
No chance.
No. It's one of them, innit? I honestly, without going like extreme, Dan, I think Anthony Joshua, if he could only use one hand, wins the fight. I honestly do.
This is the thing, and I love Joshua. You know, he's arguably the pride of Britain when it comes to boxing. He's a great fighter. But could you say he's past his best? Could you say that he's been tested too many times? The thing that it relates to me is when you look at Silva in the UFC, as soon as he got knocked out, his chin became glass. And I think that's the same with Joshua. I don't think he can take a punch anymore. I think he's one of those people where it's almost he damages way too easy now. And it's one of those things where I think when you're a boxer and you've had a few defeats and you've had a few...
Tony Jeff, an Olympic boxer, gave a different angle on why Jake Paul should be taken seriously. He said Jake Paul has every resource a fighter could ask for. He can afford elite trainers, world-class conditioning coaches, sports psychologists, nutritionists, and the best sparring partners. Because Jake has money, he can build a perfect training camp without cutting corners. Jeffer also mentioned that Jake knows this is the biggest challenge of his career, so he'll prepare harder than ever. On top of that, Jake also has the age advantage. Jeffer reminded everyone that in boxing, youth is one of the biggest advantages anyone can have. Younger fighters recover faster, train harder, and often come in stronger and more energetic.
Looking at the age difference, we've got 28 years old compared to 36 years old. So I guess the advantage there goes a little bit towards Jake Paul. 28-year-old is better than a 36-year-old. But that being said, we've got talking about experience and everything else, what comes with being 36 years old at Anthony Joshua's level. And then, like I mentioned, the heavyweights kind of seem to prime a little bit older. They'll come down to the height and the weight. This is the big one. 6'1" versus 6'6". 200 pound versus 252 pound. We got a 252 pounder in Anthony Joshua. The reach advantage is a lot, which we would expect. Amateur fights, we can see that Jake's only had one, where AJ's had 43, but 43 of them are including at the highest level, Olympic level. And yes, he won the Olympic bloody gold medal, if I don't need to remind you. Then the pro record, Jake Paul has had 13 fights, lost 1. AJ has had 28 fights and he's lost 4 with 25 KOs. And the one person that Jake Paul lost to to was Tommy Fury. Now, can we compare Tommy Fury with Anthony Joshua? Not at all. It's like night and day. So now I'm going to talk about the rules of this fight, and I'll give you my prediction, which is going to shock a lot of people after this. So, what are the rules? The bout will take place at a heavyweight, obviously. It's going to be 8 3-minute rounds. You might think, well, that's better for Jake Paul, and I'm thinking, not really. It's better for Anthony Joshua because he's just going to go all out for them 8 3-minute rounds. And imagine that, Anthony Joshua blasting at you, 6'6", whatever he is, 250 pounds, throwing big bombs at you. Anyway, both fighters will be using 10-ounce gloves for the duration of the contest. Why have they got that? It says both fighters will be wearing 10-ounce gloves for the duration of the contest. What do you expect? Them to take them off halfway through and switch them to 12s? But I guess these days, anything happens in boxing, right? The boys will follow similar rules to Jake Paul and Mike Tyson in November, but that fight was 8 2-minute rounds and 14-ounce gloves. Not similar if it's smaller gloves and 2-minute rounds. Who wrote this for DAZN? It marks the first time Joshua will have contested less than 10 rounds since...
Meanwhile, many analysts pointed out a different problem, not with the fighters, but with the sport of boxing itself. He argued that boxing created the situation, despite Joshua being a world champion and an Olympic gold medalist. His biggest payday ever came from Jake Paul's offer. That means Jake Paul brings more attention, more money, and more public interest than many top contenders. Experts believe that if Jake Paul's offer is bigger than a normal heavyweight title fight, and the sport has changed in a way that allows these crossover fights to happen. According to experts, you can't blame the fighters for taking the biggest paycheck available. Many people have claimed that Joshua can't take punches anymore, or that his chin is gone after the knockout losses he took. The analysts explain that just because Joshua lost to another heavyweight like Daniel, it doesn't automatically mean Jake Paul will beat him. Joshua still has world-class skills, huge power, and years of fighting experience. People are exaggerating the decline, and that Joshua still has the ability to win the fight, clearly, if he stays disciplined and focused.
Jake Paul, and this is the real funny thing, he's giving Anthony Joshua, Jake Paul is giving Anthony Joshua, the heavyweight legend, right, in our lifetime, his career high payday. Jake Paul is a fucking A-side. Jake Paul is saying, you're going to be a 245 maximum, motherfucker. Like, Jake Paul's giving orders here. Jake Paul's first on the fucking headline. Like, that is also blowing my mind. Even Eddie Hearn said in an interview earlier this week, he's going to get more for this than he's going to get to fight Tyson Fury if the Fury fight happens. Like, and speaking of Tyson Fury, and this brings me on to you, Joey Knight. How the fuck has Tyson Fury let Jake Paul put the gloves on and get in there with Anthony Joshua before he did? How are you going to fucking look your mate in the eye?
Fury probably had the offer, mate. He's not into the old circus shows. You know what I mean? He's not into that malarkey.
Oh my God.
He's probably fuming that his brother didn't get the fight, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But listen, I don't know, man. Like, I look at this fight with Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua, and you constantly hear it. You heard it with Mayweather and McGregor, and you hear it with so many fights. Does it damage their legacy? I would like you to give me an example of a time someone's legacy has been damaged.
And Ngannou
from an individual fight. Yeah.
No,
but Ngannou Fury ain't really, has it? Like, what I'm saying is, I think that having fights over a prolonged period of time, like Roy Jones Jr., that can damage your legacy. But a one-off fight where realistically you're not going to take no damage. But then, do you know what this leads me on to?
Anthony Yarde gave a more aggressive reaction. He warned Joshua not to underestimate Jake Paul and said Joshua should punch him up and take the fight seriously. Yarde believes Jake Paul is very good at building hype and getting attention. Jake knows how to turn a fight into a global event, and that can sometimes distract opponents or make them relaxed. Yarde said if Joshua goes into the fight too comfortably, Jake Paul could catch him off guard.
Put you in a shell, does it not?
Absolutely. I mean, you literally go into survival mode because the size difference, you question your manhood, the lot. Everything goes out the window because, like I say, the power of just a jab. And bear it in mind, when you spawn bigger guys, you must have been in the gym, Joe, you spawn people below and above. So, if you're the bigger guy, you bring the power down, you take your time. And AJ was essentially taking his time. And even just flicking out that hand, flicking out that jab, the force is crazy. So I really do fear for Jake Paul.
On power. That's what I mean. I've people have been ringing in TalkSport, these boxing experts.
Anthony Yarde gave a more aggressive reaction. He warned Joshua not to underestimate Jake Paul and said Joshua should punch him up and take the fight seriously. Yarde believed Jake Paul is very good at building hype and getting attention. Jake knows how to turn a fight into a global event, and that can sometimes distract opponents or make them relaxed. Yarde said if Joshua goes into the fight too comfortably, Jake Paul could catch him off guard.
If Joshua lands clean on Jake Paul's chin, he could end up in a very bad way. So I know it's all entertainment and they're going to break records and Netflix and all that kind of stuff, but we have to understand the dangers that are involved in boxing. And, you know, that's why I say people got to respect Jake Paul for doing this, because he's at risk.
He's at a big risk indeed. I saw something that David Hay was saying where people are kind of worrying for Jake Paul, and David Hay was like, well, he's only going to take a lot of damage if he goes and gets beaten up for 12 rounds. He just gets knocked out in one punch. That's probably one of the best things that could happen in terms of taking the least damage possible.
Yeah, David Hay is right, but also one punch can end your life as well. So you got the two sides. Yeah, he could get badly beaten up if it went 12 rounds, which can be worse